Revealed, how one man's incredible journey from hunger to music legend inspired millions. In a town fading under the weight of factory shutdowns and dreams deferred, Marcus, a 23-year-old singer-songwriter, strummed his guitar as if his very soul depended on it. The local diner was a stage, a beacon amidst despair, and each note echoed tales of heartbreak, longing, and hope. With every chord, he drew the townsfolk closer, knitting their spirits together if only for those fleeting moments. The raw emotion poured from him, an open wound healed only by the music he shared. His mother, a tireless waitress with an unwavering spirit, worked for every dollar with stained hands and eyes full of dreams. Just one more shift, Marcus, she'd say, her hope tangled with sacrifice. With their shared hunger for life, he vowed to turn their struggles into melodies that would sustain them both. Perhaps he could escape the economic chokehold of their small town, fulfilling not just his dreams, but hers too. As the open mic night lit up with familiar faces, appreciations turned into whispers of admiration. But still, shadows loomed. The more he embraced his passion, the more he felt the tug of his roots pulling him back, confronting him with guilt. Was he abandoning his family? His dreams soared to Nashville, while the ground beneath him withered. Then, fate took an unexpected turn. One night, a music producer walked in, captivated by Marcus's voice that trembled through the air, a voice rich with stories of resilience. The offer to play at a prestigious festival felt like destiny slapping him awake. "You have it, kid. Don't let this pass," the producer urged, his eyes gleaming with ambition. As Marcus basked in the moment, doubts and murmurs from friends and neighbors crept in. "Just another hick with a guitar," some whispered, fueling the fear of failure. The fierce rift with his mother began to grow, her voice laced with concern and love. "Don't forget where you came from, Marcus. Don't let those city lights blind you," she warned, heart heavy with a mix of pride and fear. But he clenched his guitar tighter, yearning for the bright lights on the horizon. Would he forsake everything, the town that raised him? In a desperate search for guidance, Marcus turned to the local veterans, men and women who fought their battles, finding strength in their stories. With every tale shared, he remembered the spirit of resilience that coursed through his veins. He stood tall, ready to embrace his truth, his identity, intricately woven with the struggles of the community. Moments before stepping onto the stage in Nashville, he felt a swell of confidence. The crowd roared, applause surging through him. Yet, when he returned home, the reality crashed down. News of an economic downturn devastating his town slapped him across the face. Families fractured, dreams dashed, leaving Marcus with a burning desire to help. Filled with renewed purpose, he grasped his guitar once again on that same diner stage, looking out at the faces of his friends and family. In their eyes, he saw their battles, the thread of hope being tugged tight. The choice was clear: he could use his voice not just for his dream, but to inspire, to reignite the flame of hope in his beloved town. But as whispers of discontent began to swirl around him, secrets from the past started to unravel. What would it take to restore not just his community, but his family too? The space grew heavy with anticipation. The answer felt just out of reach, dangling lightly on the precipice of his next note. The diner buzzed with a mix of hope and anxiety, the familiar sounds of clinking dishes and low conversations blending with the soft strums of Marcus's guitar. As he poured his heart into each song, he sensed the energy around him shift. The warmth of the crowd was no longer just admiration, it had morphed into a palpable hunger for connection and change. Marcus's mother, seated at the edge of the small stage, watched him intently. Her hands, worn from years of toil, clutched the table like a lifeline. He could see the pride in her eyes, but lurking behind it was the shadow of fear. Would he still remember the stories that shaped him? As the last note hung in the air, applause erupted, yet Marcus couldn't shake the gnawing doubt thriving in the back of his mind. "Remember, Marcus," she said, her voice barely above a whisper as he left the stage, "you're not just a voice in a crowd. You're our voice. Every song I write is for us," he promised, but as he stepped into the back alley for some fresh air, he felt the weight of those words. What if his songs could do more? The evening air stung as he thought about the town's troubles, the closed factories, the job losses, the empty houses. He felt a surge of determination. If he could make it to Nashville, if he could draw some attention to their plight, maybe he could turn despair into hope. The next day, Marcus began to write a new song, one that spoke not just to his dreams but to the struggles of his community. He poured every ounce of pain, anger, and love into the lyrics. He would sing about the lost dreams, the hard work, and the resilience that held the town together. This wasn't just music, it was a lifeline. As he performed it for the first time during open mic night, silence blanketed the diner. The raw emotion seeping from each verse painted vivid pictures in the minds of his audience. When he finished, the crowd erupted not in mere applause, but with tears and cheers. For the first time, it felt like they weren't just listening, they were living it. But amidst the applause, he noticed familiar faces clouded with worry, friends who had lost jobs, families struggling to stay afloat. That's when he felt it, a wave of realization. Music was powerful, but healing his community needed more than just melodies. It required action. After the show, he gathered a few friends, those who dared to dream of a better future. Over cups of coffee, they tossed around ideas: fundraisers, community events, bringing people together to revitalize their town's spirit. "Let us do something big," Marcus said, his voice steady. "Let us bring in local musicians, hold a concert, raise money for people affected by this downturn. We can show folks our town has life in it yet." The room buzzed with excitement, every smile igniting a spark of hope. They all knew the struggles, but together, they could be the song that wouldn't fade. As they planned and plotted, Marcus felt lighter, more determined. But the deeper he ventured into this mission, the more shadows of the past loomed. There were secrets he had buried, truths about his family that twisted within him like a haunting melody. The more he tried to rise, the more threads of his identity began to unravel. With each passing day, he wondered, could he face the truth without losing everything he had built? The next step loomed, and Marcus knew it was time to dig into the past and confront what lay beneath. He felt his pulse race as he picked up his guitar again, ready to channel not just the community's pains but his own. As strumming filled the air, dark memories crashed against the bright notes. This was the moment when clarity would strike or break him completely. What would the music reveal? And could he withstand the echoes? Sitting in the dim light of his small room, Marcus gripped his guitar tightly. The weight of the instrument felt both comforting and burdensome. As he strummed the strings, fragments of memories began to surface: faces, laughter, arguments. Each note ignited memories he thought he had buried deep. There was no denying it, his past was catching up with him. He recalled his childhood home, where music danced through the air, filling the gaps left by unspoken words. His father, a man etched with struggle, once strummed a battered guitar, hoping to fill their lives with magic even as their world crumbled. But as the years unfolded, hopes dimmed. His dad drank the melody away, leaving behind echoes of lost dreams and muted arguments. The guitar had become a bittersweet reminder of what could have been. Marcus's heart raced as he thought of his father. The man he revered, yet struggled to understand. Could he truly weave that emotional chaos into his music without losing himself in the process? He felt the chords resonate within him, they mirrored his turmoil. Each fret was a reminder of the discord he navigated, both in his family and in life. What would it mean to confront those memories? To let them seep into his songs? Could his journey inspire others to confront their shadows, too? These questions loomed larger than life as he continued to play, creating melodies layered with both sadness and hope. He set his guitar aside, allowing silence to blanket him. The tranquility was short-lived, as doubts crashed in like a storm. What if confronting his past shattered the very foundation he sought to build? He could hear his mother's words echoing in his mind. Music isn't just escape, it's a reflection. That reflection was staring back at him, raw and unguarded. He felt a stirring urge to share this truth, to coax his friends into facing their struggles head-on. Maybe he could be that guiding voice, just like his mother believed. He envisioned the concert his friends had discussed, a gathering where vulnerability and healing would intertwine, where voices would rise together in solidarity. As the night grew deeper, Marcus decided to send out an invitation to those who shared his vision. He tapped on his phone, sending texts to every friend he believed would embrace this mission. "Let us meet tomorrow," he typed. "We'll not just raise funds. We'll raise hope." Night turned to dawn, and with it came a renewed sense of purpose. As Marcus brewed coffee, he felt the electricity of possibilities crackle in the air. His guitar lay waiting in the corner, whispering promises of power within its strings. But just as excitement bubbled up, a wave of trepidation washed over him. Would they understand the depth of his commitment? Could they handle the vulnerability he was prepared to unveil? Determined to shed the layers hiding his truth, Marcus turned his attention back to the guitar. He had to wrestle with his past before confronting his present, and that meant being unflinchingly honest. The next day, as he gathered with his friends, there was a palpable excitement. Hopes and dreams filled the room, each person carrying their own weight of struggle. As they began discussing ideas, Marcus found himself holding back. The faces around him were bright, hopeful, but what if his shadows dimmed their light? He took a breath, the air thick with anticipation. He could do this. This was not just about his story, it was about every person who had ever felt trapped in silence. "Before we jump in," he began, "there's something I need to share." The room quieted, eyes turning toward him. The moment hung heavy with potential. Marcus felt electric, ready to unveil hidden truths, ready for a journey that would challenge everything he thought he knew about himself. What would he reveal? Would the community accept him past and all? As the words teetered on his lips, he felt the pulse of music beginning to surge within him again. Would this concert truly be a renewal, or simply another performance? The truth lay ahead of him, and it was time to step into the light. Marcus felt his heartbeat quicken. It was as if the world had paused, holding its breath in that tiny room filled with friends. Their expectant gazes were like spotlights trained on him, urging him onward. He could almost hear the lack of sound pressing in around him, an intimate cocoon of silence that felt heavy yet liberating. He cleared his throat, wrestling with uncertainty and determination. "My dad," he started, needing courage for that first bridge. He had this dream of being a musician. But life got in the way. He could feel their eyes growing wider, noticing the shift in his tone. He turned to drinking. "We lost him a little bit at a time until he was just a shadow of who he used to be." The room was still. One friend's hand found another's, fingers gripping tightly, as if anchoring themselves to solidarity. That touch seemed to bolster Marcus. He had to continue, there was no turning back now. "I thought if I could just play like he did, if I could write the kind of stuff he used to love." He paused, the lump in his throat growing. "I thought it would bring him back, somehow." But he breathed deeply, feeling raw. "It never worked that way. I struggled with what it meant to have that music inside of me when all it reminded me of was loss." As he spoke, he could see a spark of recognition in his friends' faces. They had their own shadows, hidden stories that echoed his. He needed them to see it wasn't just about him, it was about all of them. He felt the power of the moment rise, urging him to go deeper. "I realized," he continued, "music isn't just for escape. It's for connection. For healing." His fingers tugged nervously at the frayed edges of his jeans. "And that's why I want to do this concert. I want us to share our stories through songs. Not just mine but everyone's." He held his breath, feeling open, vulnerable, yet a strange sense of freedom lifting him. The silence that followed was powerful. Then, slowly, one by one, friends began nodding. With each acceptance, Marcus's heart swelled. "Imagine it," he urged, a spark igniting in his eyes. "A night where we all share our truths. Where music brings us together, that's the hope I want to raise." As he finished, the room erupted in murmurs of agreement. There was an energy now, a collective bond weaving through their shared struggles and hopes. His words had ignited something within them. They were piecing together their stories into a greater narrative, a symphony of resilience and vulnerability, yet, a flicker of doubt lingered at the back of Marcus's mind. Would they be able to bear the darkness that sometimes came with truth? What if telling their stories only opened old wounds? One of his friends, Jenna, leaned forward, her expression serious but encouraging. "Marcus, you've made the first step. We're with you. Trust us." Their support was like a balm on his spirit. He didn't feel so alone anymore. But as enthusiasm filled the room, a part of him wondered, would they be able to turn their shared hope into genuine healing? "Let us plan it then," another friend yelled, enthusiasm echoing around the room. A rush of excitement coursed through Marcus as plans began to take shape. But as they laughed and tossed ideas back and forth, just beneath the surface, that doubt remained: how difficult would it be to face the shadows of the past under the bright lights of their stage? As adrenaline fueled their conversations, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that the road ahead would force him to reckon with pieces of himself he had long suppressed. Could they all step into the light together, or would they falter under the weight of their unspoken truths? The thought lingered in the air, heavy and uncertain. What truths lay on the other side of this endeavor? And would they find the courage to face them together? As the excitement in the room spiraled, Marcus couldn't help but feel a tangled knot of anticipation and fear. The plans for the concert buzzed around him like electric currents, lifting spirits and kindling hope. But the weight of his inner turmoil soon crept back, a silent reminder of what they were about to undertake. "Okay, let us talk details," Jenna suggested, pulling out her phone to take notes. "When do we want to do this?" "Soon," Marcus blurted out, the word escaping his lips with urgency. He wanted to seize the moment while their energy was high. "Maybe in a month. We can practice and make it perfect." Marcus watched as his friends nodded in agreement, their faces lighting up with the prospect of creation. But a soft whisper in his mind questioned whether it would be enough time. Was a month really enough to delve into their hidden depths? "What about the location?" asked Jamie, her eyes scanning the room with enthusiasm. "We could try the community center or even the park. A lot of people could come." The idea felt exhilarating, the sound of laughter filling the room as they tossed around ideas. Each suggestion seemed to strengthen their bond, knitting them closer together in earnest resolve. Yet, in the midst of their joy, Marcus felt a shadow cast over the bright possibilities. He could almost see the past's heavy ghosts lurking in the corners, whispering fears of exposure. What if we all bomb on stage? What if our stories are too painful? He wondered inwardly. "Marcus, are you with us?" Jenna's gentle voice broke through his thoughts. "You seem a bit out of it. What's on your mind?" "Yeah, man. You okay?" Tyler added, concern threading through his words. Marcus took a deep breath, forcing the tightness in his chest to loosen. I know sharing our stories is important, but I worry about what it might do to us. What if we dig up things that hurt too much?" A ripple of silence fell upon the group. Eyes shifted, faces showing empathy and understanding. It was in that moment, he realized he was not alone in his doubt. "I get that," Jenna said softly. "But those stories are also our strength. This concert could help us turn the pain into something beautiful." The room started to murmur in agreement again, although a quiet weight still filled the air. Marcus felt the pause deepen, like a well of emotion waiting to overflow. "What if we all wrote down our stories first?" Jamie suggested hesitantly. "We could share them anonymously, and it might help us process before putting it all out in front of everyone." The idea hung momentarily before blooming in Marcus's chest. "That's a great idea. A way to voice our truths safely before we stand brave in front of an audience." Nods reverberated through the room, and the energy surged back, a wave of relief washing over him. It felt like a small victory, a step toward redefining their shared experiences without solely relying on the burden of raw exposure. The conversations picked up, laughter and ideas flowing freely once again. Yet, Marcus still carried the weight of uncertainty. He picked at his nails, feeling the tension flickering within him like a candle left too close to the edge. What if their shared truths brought them together or thrust them into the depths of hurt they weren't prepared for? As plans solidified around him, he caught Jenna's gaze. She seemed hopeful yet aware of the underlying currents of fear. "Marcus, it's okay to be scared," she said gently. "It just means this matters. We'll figure it out together." Her reassuring words sank in deeper than he expected. Perhaps the fear wasn't a hurdle, it was a side effect of stepping into the light. But as another idea sparked in the room, he still couldn't shake the thought: was everyone truly prepared for the unveiling that lay ahead? What demons might drag themselves into the open during their healing? With a sudden thought, he raised his voice: "What if we started sharing tonight? Just to test the waters?" The shocked silence that followed was louder than any laughter. Would they take the leap, or would they retreat back into the safety of silence? The room held its breath, caught in a moment teetering between excitement and unspoken dread. What would each share, and how would it change them forever? As the tension in the room hung thick, a mix of fear and excitement surrounded them like a fog. Marcus watched his friends' expressions shift, uncertainty flickering in their eyes. He felt exposed, as if he had thrown his heart onto the table in front of them, daring anyone to look away. "I mean, if we start now, it could really help," he stammered, trying to push through that thick silence. "We can support each other, right?" Jamie leaned forward, her brow furrowed in thought. "Sharing tonight? Just like that?" But what if Tyler trailed off, catching himself? The thought of opening up so quickly made the air feel heavier. Marcus could feel his own pulse thrumming in his ears. The room felt like a pressure cooker, filled with heated emotion waiting to spill over. "It doesn't have to be perfect," he continued, borrowing some of Jenna's earlier confidence. Just speak what's on our minds. We don't have to share everything tonight. Just a taste." "Okay, just a taste," Jenna echoed softly, her voice steadier than others. "Maybe we can write down a few thoughts, even something that feels safe. It could clear the air." Slowly, hands reached out to grab pens and scraps of paper scattered across the table. Each focused on their task, the world outside faded, and the buzz of excitement returned, though with a more urgent, intimate weight. Marcus could hear the scratching of pens, his heart racing in tandem with the words being formed. What would he say? What pieces of himself was he willing to unearth tonight? He scribbled hesitantly, words swirling in his mind like leaves caught in a whirlwind. "I am scared that if I open up, I'll lose control," he wrote. "What if my feelings are too much for me to handle?" Around him, the soft sounds of pens scratching and paper rustling filled the void, punctuated occasionally by a nervous laugh or soft sigh. As they shared their thoughts on paper, the atmosphere shifted, fear giving way to shared purpose. Once written, those fears felt less tangible, more like fleeting shadows dancing at the edge of their vision. After a few moments, Jenna spoke up, "Okay, who wants to go first?" Her voice, though small, resonated with an inviting warmth. The room's energy started to crackle. Jamie glanced around, then raised her hand gingerly. "I guess I will. I wrote that I often feel invisible. It scares me that my story doesn't matter." The quiet burst into small affirmations of understanding. "It does matter, Jamie," Marcus said, his heart clenching with shared empathy. The round of sharing began, each person stepping into the light with a spotlight glowing softly around them. Marcus watched their faces as they voiced their hidden feelings, revealing shards of their lives that had been tucked away. Each story was like a seed planted in the shifting soil of their connection, sprouting with tenderness and vulnerability. When it was Tyler's turn, he hesitated but took a breath, rock steady. "I'm afraid of failure. That everything I've worked for is a waste. That no one will care." The room shifted again, shared horror reflected in their eyes. How could he think that? But on the heels of that fear was a wave of support, soft murmurs of encouragement lighting the space. As each voice came forth, like threads weaving through one another, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling of catharsis that was flowing around him. He felt the heaviness of judgment dissolve into waves of acceptance. "Okay, my turn," he breathed out, surprising even himself with his boldness. He cleared his throat and began to share, pouring out his heart, each word more liberating than the last. And when he finished, he looked into their eyes, his friends, his family. "I guess what I really want is to be seen." Silence held the moment as they absorbed his truth. Then Jenna reached out, squeezing his hand. "You are seen." As the night progressed, a bond blossomed among them, each story leaving an imprint on their souls. They were moving from behind the walls of their fears and doubts, forging connections deep and strong. The laughter returned, but now it mingled with tears and a raw honesty that filled every corner, but a nagging thought clawed at Marcus: would sharing their truths tonight propel them forward, or would it unearth past pains they were not ready to confront? As Jamie leaned back in her chair, wiping a tear away, she shrugged and said, "It's like unwrapping old scars, you know. Maybe it's just time." Marcus stared into the distance, his chest tightening with an unsettling weight of longing. What lay ahead, as they ventured further into the uncharted territory of their hearts? Just when he thought they had shared enough, he suggested, almost in a whisper, "What if we performed a few of these stories at the concert?" The room drove into another thick silence, a mixture of shock and contemplation swirling in the charged air. What had Marcus just put into motion? Would they truly dare to step onto that stage, bearing not just their music but their souls? The silence in the room was profound, as if time itself had come to a halt. Marcus's suggestion hung in the air, rippling through their uncertainty. He felt every heartbeat like a drum. "What if?" echoed in the caverns of their minds, each wondering where those two simple words might lead them. Jenna blinked first, her brow furrowing again. "You mean perform our stories? In front of everyone?" She looked torn between excitement and dread, and Marcus was right there with her. The idea sent shivers down his spine, a cocktail of fear and anticipation. "Yeah," he said, the words spilling out before he could think. "It could be powerful. Sharing music comes from the heart, right? Imagine how much more authentic it'd be if we shared our truths." Tyler turned his head, his face a mix of disbelief and consideration. "But what if we mess it up? What if people don't connect?" His voice was small but brimming with the weight of years spent worried about approval. "What if they do?" Jamie countered, her voice rising with newfound resolve. "What if our stories strike a chord? The whole point of music is connection. If we let people in, they might feel less alone. Like how we feel right now." The fire in her words sparked something in Marcus. He watched as the group leaned in closer, trading glances filled with understanding. They had all come so far, revealing their vulnerabilities, and here was a chance to turn those truths into something bold. "I don't want to just be another voice in the crowd," Marcus confessed, feeling the words pull loose like strings fraying at the edges. "I want to be heard. Don't you all?" At that, a soft wave of agreement floated over the group. Jenna took a deep breath, the kind that felt like a fresh start. "If we're doing this, we need to be honest. We can't tiptoe around our truths." As they began to discuss what their performances could look like, the room filled with excitement. Ideas flowed rapidly. Tyler could write a piece about fear and resilience, while Jenna could find strength in her story of feeling invisible. They all started to collaborate, merging words and themes like ingredients in a recipe. But amidst the chatter, Marcus felt a nagging voice at the back of his mind. What if his story was one that held them back? As they fleshed out details, he wondered if he could truly bear himself on that stage without breaking. "Marcus?" Jamie's voice cut through his thoughts, pulling him back. "What are you thinking?" He hesitated, but the honesty they had shared lit some bravado in him. "I'm scared. What if no one wants to hear my story? What if it's not enough?" "You have to trust us," Tyler said gently, his eyes steady. "You're enough, Marcus. We all are. Our stories matter." Encouraged, Marcus nodded, though a knot still twisted in his stomach. He could feel the pull of something bigger than himself, the weight of their aspirations tethered to the hope of change. This was no longer just about music. It was depths of their beings laid bare for others to witness. As they moved forward with energy, each of them felt a shift, a collective lift from fears that had once shackled them. The laughter bubbled back up, a joyous antidote to anxiety. They might be walking into the unknown, but they were ready to explore together. When they finally settled into a quiet moment, Marcus caught Jenna's eye, and in her gaze, he felt it an unspoken promise. They were going to do this. No matter how daunting it felt, together they would embrace whatever lay ahead, ready to reshape their fears into something beautiful. But just as they prepared to cap off the evening, Jamie's expression turned serious. What if our families don't support us? What if they won't understand? The question slipped from her lips, heavy and uncertain. Marcus's heart raced at the thought, shadows of doubt creeping back in. A wave of anxiety swelled within him. Would their courage withstand the truth of their pasts? As they felt the weight of that question settle around them, he sensed that this journey was only beginning, a raw, unsettling chapter that could redefine them all. Would they continue on, or would fears overshadow their evolving narratives? The atmosphere in the room shifted, the air thick with tension and unspoken fears. Marcus knew Jamie's question had stirred something deep within them all. He could see it in the tightening of her fists and the way Jenna's shoulders slumped slightly. What if they don't get it? Tyler murmured, his eyes downcast. What if they just don't care? Marcus felt the weight of those words like a heavy stone pressing down on his chest. He thought about his own family, where emotions were rarely expressed and dreams were often dismissed as impractical. How would they react if he opened up about his struggles? Would they see him as the same boy who once hid behind a facade of silence? I think Jenna spoke up, her voice barely above a whisper. We all felt that fear. But we also felt the power of being heard. She looked around at the group, her eyes shining with determination. Maybe that's what we need to focus on. What if we use this opportunity to show them who we really are? Marcus nodded, a spark igniting within him. Jenna was right. They had already taken steps toward vulnerability by sharing their stories in this safe space. Why not share that same courage with the world? But what if it's too much? Jamie interjected, her tone thick with worry. What if they don't want to hear our pain? What if they only want the shiny, perfect versions of us? Then they don't deserve our stories. Tyler snapped, surprising everyone. He was usually so reserved, but the passion in his voice demanded attention. If we hold back, then we're just feeding into that idea of who we should be instead of who we are. Our struggles, our truths, they matter. The fire in Tyler's words ignited something deep within Marcus. He realized it was time to let go of the fear that had been holding him back. He took a deep breath and spoke, his voice steady. I don't want to hide anymore. I don't want to pretend. My family might not understand, but that's not my responsibility. I can't let their lack of support silence me. As the words spilled from him, each one felt like a release, a shedding of layers he had clung to for too long. The burden that had weighed down his heart now felt lighter, almost freeing. Jenna's smile was warm and encouraging. Exactly. If we're honest about our pain, then maybe we'll create the space for others to do the same. The mood in the room shifted again, a palpable sense of empowerment surrounding them. They started brainstorming how they would present their stories, mixing elements of music and narrative, building a tapestry of voices that echoed their lives' complexities. Marcus caught Jamie's eye, and for the first time, he saw a hint of hope there. It felt like they were all part of something bigger, like a group of brave souls stepping into the unknown together, but just as they were beginning to feel invincible, another thought rushed in, uninvited. What if we do this and it falls flat? Jamie's expression turned grim, echoing the doubts swirling in Marcus's mind. What if no one connects with us? The dark cloud of uncertainty loomed behind her words, threatening to cast a shadow over their newfound resolve. But amid that chaos, Marcus felt his heartbeat quicken, a pulsing reminder of their shared purpose. This wasn't just about them, it was about connection, the thing they all craved most. Even if it doesn't go as we hope, we will have tried, he said firmly, his conviction growing stronger. And that alone is worth it. We owe it to ourselves. They exchanged determined glances, the atmosphere crackling with a mix of enthusiasm and fear. They were on the precipice of something life-changing, a moment that could forever alter the course of their journeys, but just as they began to solidify their plans, Marcus's phone buzzed in his pocket. He pulled it out and glanced at the screen. It was a message from his sister. His heart raced as he opened it, suddenly paralyzed by the weight of anticipation. Would this be a note of support or another reminder of the distance between them? Next to him, Jamie leaned in, her head tilted in curiosity. What does it say? He hesitated, the screen reflecting his uncertain emotions. Would this be the answer they all needed, or another fear waiting to be explored? Marcus felt the electric buzz of his phone deep in his hand, an unsettling reminder of the life he had outside this fragile sanctuary they had created. He swallowed hard, hesitating to let the words spill onto the screen. But curiosity from his friends mounted, their own fears momentarily eclipsed by interest. He had been holding these realities at a distance now, it was time to confront them. Glancing at Jamie, he caught a flicker of concern in her eyes. "It's from my sister," he finally muttered, not fully understanding why he felt compelled to share. "She said she wants to talk." "Talk? About what?" Tyler leaned in, all eyes focused on Marcus. It felt surreal, the weight of the moment pressing down on him. Suddenly, it felt like they were all peering into his life, waiting for him to unravel the threads of his story. "About everything," Marcus replied, suddenly apprehensive. "About me. About my music. About how things have been between us." Jenna placed her hand on Marcus's arm, her grounding touch igniting warmth in him. "That could be good," she said softly. "She might want to understand. Or it could be just another chance for her to dismiss what I've been trying to say," he countered. Fear crept into his tone, clinging like a shadow. "I can't take that again." "What do you want?" Jamie asked, her voice firm yet sympathetic. "This is your chance to say what you really feel." The question floated in the space between them, and for a moment, the world fell silent. Marcus felt his heart thundering in his chest as he considered how he had always been the one to hold back. The needs of others had drowned out his own, shaping him into a version of himself that felt like a worn-out mask. "What if I tell her everything?" he mused aloud, half to himself. "What if I finally show her all the parts of me, the ones I thought she could never reach?" The thought made him feel vulnerable, like standing on the edge of a cliff. He was terrified but also strangely exhilarated. The idea of being honest, finally laying bare the stories that haunted him, felt raw and powerful, like the first notes of a song waiting to be composed. "It starts with you," Tyler added, breaking the thick silence that had settled over them. "You deserve to tell her what's in your heart, no matter how she responds." Marcus nodded, emboldened by the support of his friends. "Okay. I'll reply." He realized in that moment that revealing himself didn't just matter to him, it mattered to them, too. They were all feeling their way through the dark, searching for sparks of connection. With a resolute sigh, he began typing, and each letter felt liberating. "I've been afraid to show you who I really am." His fingers danced across the screen, magically weaving tales of struggle, triumph, and an insatiable hunger for music and acceptance. As he pressed send, a rush of adrenaline surged through him, mingling with the nebulous discomfort of uncertainty. "What's next for us?" he wondered out loud, breaking the anticipatory silence hanging overhead. "Next, we wait," Jenna replied, her gaze steady. "And then we prepare for whatever comes after." The room felt charged with energy once again. They were no longer just a group of friends sharing secrets, they were allies on a journey toward authenticity and acceptance. But just as his heart began to settle, a new message popped up on his phone. The notification dragged Marcus's attention back, and he felt his stomach drop. His sister's reply was almost instant, startling him with its urgency. "What does she say?" Jamie whispered, a mix of anxiety and hope tinging her words. Taking a deep breath, Marcus opened the message, his heart racing once more. The words shimmered on the screen, each a puzzle piece waiting to lock into place. But as he read, a shadow raced across his face. His heart sank. This was heading toward a direction he wasn't prepared for. "Oh," Marcus muttered, feeling the weight of the looming storm. "This isn't going how I thought." His friends leaned closer, sensing the tension spike again. "What is it?" Tyler's voice was low now, uncertainty washing over the group like an unexpected tide. The message was starting to change everything. The room felt like it was closing in as Marcus read his sister's message. "I don't have time for this," she typed. "I wish you would just focus on your music and forget about the past, leave it behind." It wasn't just the words that pierced him, it was the formidable finality of them that wrenched his heart. As if he had been flung into a sea of doubt, he swallowed hard, unsure of how to respond or even if he wanted to. "Wow," Jenna whispered, sharing a glance with the others. Their eyes were full of sympathy, but they were also filled with the unyielding resolve he saw reflected in their own battles. It was hard not to feel the wave of disappointment wash over him. "What should I say?" Marcus blurted out, raising his voice slightly, the frustration coloring his tone. "How can she dismiss everything I've been fighting to express? She doesn't even know what I've gone through." "You can't control her response, Marcus," Tyler said softly, grounding him with steady eyes. "But you can control what you say next. You have a right to your feelings. Don't let the past dictate how you move forward." As he sat contemplating, uncertainty draped around him like a heavy cloak. Behind him, music played softly in his memory, a siren call urging him to hide away, but he stood firm. This was bigger than him, it was about taking back his voice and ownership of his story. With hands trembling around his phone, he typed back, deliberate and firm, "I can't leave it behind, because it shapes who I am. I miss you and want to have that conversation, but I can't do it unless we meet halfway." His finger hovered over the send button, adrenaline pumping through him. "All right," he said finally, glancing at his friends. "But I'm going to make it clear that I won't shy away from the truth." "Good, Marcus," Jenna encouraged him, and the others nodded in solidarity. "That's your truth. And you have every right to own it." As he sent the message, he felt the air around him shift. Each breath was lighter, filled with the promise of moving forward. It was as if a dam had broken, letting in a rush of water that had previously been held back. "I think this is going to be the beginning of something important," he said, a newfound fire igniting within him. "Not just for me, but for all of us." His friends exchanged smiles, eager anticipation shimmering in their eyes, and Marcus could feel their energy thriving as they turned their focus back to their concert plans. With the weight of the moment slowly lifting, they dove headfirst into reorganizing their ideas. Each revelation now felt like another layer of their journey toward healing. They worked together to finalize their set list, blending their individual stories into a rich tapestry of emotions that would echo through the crowded venue. As the concert day drew closer, they practiced late into the nights, their songs often spilling tears and laughter. Each performance was not just about showcasing their music, it was about standing tall and unashamed in their truth, fully aware of how vulnerable they would feel stepping onto that stage. Yet, every rehearsal strengthened their bond, transforming their anxieties into resolve. The night of the concert arrived quickly, the air thick with enthusiasm buzzing through the makeshift venue at the community center. Faces filled with love and hope turned toward them, a sea of familiar smiles ready to hear their stories. The lights dimmed, and as their hearts beat in unison, Marcus took a deep breath. He could see his mother sitting in the front row, her eyes glistening with unshed tears, and suddenly it hit him, this was what it was all about. They opened with Marcus's song, wrapping their voices around their shared struggles. As each note poured out, he could feel the struggle of his father echoing through the chords, pain transformed into a beautiful sound. And when they began sharing their stories, an electric hush enveloped the crowd. Not one of them held back. Jamie spoke about feeling invisible, her voice shaking yet powerful, while Tyler seized the moment to discuss the weight of fear he carried. When it was Marcus's turn, he stepped forward, grounding himself in the moment. "They say music heals," he began, the crowd holding its breath. "But tonight, I want to give you more than just notes. I want to share my truth, to tell you about a struggle so many people face. Music is my lifeline, but it carries the weight of every dream along with it." He unlocked memories stored deep within, revealing pieces of his heart that had once been buried in shame. With each word, he saw understanding flicker in the eyes of the audience, and it lifted him. They were listening. They felt. By the time they finished, applause flooded the space fervently, mixed with cheers and laughter that erupted into catharsis. The world felt different, lighter, filled with an intimacy that united them. That night, under the soft glow of warm lights, Marcus felt reborn. The shadows faded as love and strength echoed around him. He hadn't just inspired them, they had all forged a path toward healing together, a community bound by hope and resilience. As they stepped off the stage, hugs enveloped them like a blanket, in the warmth of acceptance and understanding. One glance towards his mother revealed her unwavering pride, tears glistened in her eyes. In that moment, he finally understood it wasn't just about pursuing dreams, but about finding connection, lifting each other higher, and embracing the beauty of transformation. And he would carry that truth with him as they stepped toward the future, together. So now, as you wrap yourself in the warmth of this story, remember, you need to subscribe now if you want to witness more incredible journeys like Marcus's. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show how much this story matters. Comment your reactions and feelings about how Marcus embraced his truth. And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to share. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions. Be part of the movement.